Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Reclaim Your Divinity podcast with your host, Amanda Cannon. I am your spiritual empowerment priestess, and I guide you to transcend your limitations by helping you clear your past and align you with your future so that you can reignite your true essence and live life on your terms. And in this season of the Reclaim Your Divinity podcast, we are talking to a whole host of other therapists, healers, practitioners, and people who are on their journey, living in purpose to guide humanity home to themselves. And in today's episode, we are speaking with Leigh Rorke. Leigh is a business medium, and I just absolutely love Leigh and what she offers because she's so authentic and down to earth. Leigh helps mostly entrepreneurs, other healers and therapists grow their business via tuning into them and their energetics, as well as the business and the business's energetics, to see what is aligned, what's misaligned, what is the business asking for, and what clearing needs to happen in order for that business idea to come in and land so that you can grow your business. I absolutely love what Leigh does. So listen into this episode if you have your own business, you are thinking of starting your own business, and just hearing how the energetics of the separate business entity are working with the energetics of yourself, how any blocks to your beliefs, your capacity to hold, maybe preventing the business entity from coming in fully, and then what you can do what changes you can make, what shifts you can make to allow your business entity to fully come in through you so you can ground those ideas in and release them to the world. So if this sounds like something that you are interested in, please do stick around because I love this conversation and I'm sure you will too. Hi, Leigh. How are you today?
Yeah, good. Hi, Amanda. How are you?
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you so, so much for coming on the Reclaim Your Divinity podcast today. I'm
You're welcome.
so excited to talk to you because I absolutely love what you do. And how you got to be where you are doing what you do today. So can you please start by sharing a bit about your journey to where you are today?
Yes. Yeah, I'm happy to. So, my background is originally I was an occupational therapist. So I studied that, kind of out of uni. And while I was studying OT, I was drawn to it because they talked about it being a holistic health professional, but, I guess it's holistic to a point. So that wasn't enough for me. So I kept kind of learning things. And I think I started with Reiki, and then I moved into kinesiology while I was still studying, or those early years of working. And so I feel like my OT background gave me a really great experience. I worked in places like mental health and palliative care, hospice and hospitals, and then I moved into corporate health. So I had that kind of experience of billable hours and corporate. So that kind of all melded in the background while I was studying kinesiology. And when I had my babies, I just launched into having a business, a mental health OT, but mostly kinesiology. So people would come to me for straight kinesiology. So that could be anything from physical health problems to mental, emotional, spiritual. But I think my great love has always been the energetics. So the link between the emotional and the spiritual side to how that then shows up in what people create in their life. So I've done a lot of trauma therapy. So I've had my own business now for, my daughter's 16. So it'll be like 17 years. I was pregnant with her when I started. And in that time, I guess I've seen thousands of clients, from everything for trauma to business. And I've always had clients that have come to me for business, like, what is stopping me from getting to my next level? Or, I've got these issues with my team. How can I deal with that? Or, so I've always done that in the background. But more recently, I just owned that this is what I love to do. And this is kind of my genius, is to actually connect people to the spirit of their business. So the background of that is that I believe that soul-led entrepreneurs and healers and therapists and coaches, which are the main people that come to me, the entrepreneurs or the coaches, that our soul has, led us in this direction of doing this work. And so there's more embodiment and investment in that, but that the business has its own spirit, like it has its own energy, it is its own entity, and it's linked to our soul. So, or the people that, that are invested or partners or that sort of thing in the business. So when I work with somebody, I'm always looking at the energetics first, and that starts with the real grounded base of energetics, which comes, I guess, from my health background, is what is their capacity? Like, I think when I'm talking capacity, I'm talking nervous system capacity. You'll see me do this because I always draw it like a plate. Like, how big is your plate? What's on your plate, and how big is your plate? Can you hold what's on your plate? What's your capacity to have to attract new clients as well? So as a business owner, we're just incredibly, the business is affected by our capacity. Makes sense, right?
100%.
But on an energetic or a quantum field, the clients can feel that too. They can feel how available we are, how much energy we have. So capacity could be financial capacity too. So that could be a person's ability to hold and earn money is a capacity issue. Or their nervous system capacity. How much stress can they handle? How much work or busyness can they handle? Or it's a capacity issue to do with boundaries, like how able are they to say no? And so I guess, yes, I'm jumping all over the place, but I think, those issues are really, really the first key I look at.
Yeah.
And the second key I'm always looking at is alignment. How aligned are you to your business, to your creations, to your marketing message, to the way you're presenting yourself, your branding? To me, that alignment is really key. Firstly, just in you, and integrity is part of that alignment as well. So firstly, in who you attract into your business, but can people actually resonate? Because when somebody's really in alignment, particularly with their messaging, people will go, the right people will go, yes, 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 I'm really drawn to that. I'm really attracted to that. And this doesn't matter if this is a product-based business or a service-based business. I have people who have product-based businesses, and the alignment matters as much in that sense as well, that they're aligned to their product, they're aligned to the way they're marketing it. And that's so bespoke. And so I think this is kind of where my passion for what I do comes from, is that I see a lot of people, go into the journey of business, which is a massive growth journey. Like, it's huge. So, as you would probably know.
Yes, 100% can attest.
So they go into business, as did I. And, I have had a number of niches over the years because I was trying to find my alignment, but I was also just on some level buying into what I believed I should be doing, rather than what was right for me and what was in alignment with me. So that can be hard to work out, right? So I'm a little bit of the school of, okay, we lean a little bit on my intuition to start with around what's in alignment for you. And then we're activating your intuition so you get really good at that. So it's kind of, I'm a bit of a teach. Even though I call myself a business medium, somebody actually asked me a great question the other day, and they said to me, I just want to make sure that the answers are coming from me, which is the coaching approach. So I'm trained as a coach. The coaching approach is the answers come from you. But sometimes people lean on my intuition because they can't get out of the way of their own programming, their own ideas of what they should be doing because Joe Blow down the road told them they should be doing that. So they can't get out of that enough to have the clarity. So they lean on me initially, but my goal is to train them to activate their intuition even more. And because that's what the soul alignment piece is about, is that when people are aligned to their higher self and the soul, and they're willing to listen to that and follow that, that becomes a way of living, that the way of living that I live, and the way of living that I believe supports soul-led entrepreneurs the most, to live via your intuition and still have logical strategy, but it has to fit the piece of, this is right for me, this is an alignment for me, this is my way of doing business, not the way that I see everybody else doing it. So copycat strategies never worked for me, Amanda. So for some people they seem to work, which is great, but I'm kind of really happy that my soul, for whatever reason, has never let me go too far off track. If I go off track, it kind of dings me back into alignment.
And can you share a little bit about how you were dinged back into alignment?
I have so many stories. So one of them particularly was I was doing a massive launch, and this was the first time I did business coaching, actually. So I did this massive launch, and I was off alignment for a number of reasons. Like, my journey is often kind of circular in that I'll have to, and this is just my path, I believe we all, whether you view this as human design or astrology or whatever, but we all have a unique kind of way we journey through life. My path is that if I skip steps, I have to kind of go back and re-get them. So I was doing this launch, this business coaching launch. I'd run a small programs, like 10 people, and this was going to be my big, 100-person program or whatever, right? And there was new technology at the time. This is pre-Zoom. I think Zoom might have been there, but it definitely didn't have group capacity. And there was this new technology, and I trialed it and it worked. And then on the day of my launch, their whole system collapsed. Ooh. So I had no platform. So I ended up I think I had something like instant telemarketing, which she used to speak to. So I kind of switched to that, and I did the launch, but probably 10% of people got that email. So I'd spent a bucket load on Facebook advertising, and I'd done this massive launch, and it was a massive flop. And so I kind of collapsed into despair after that. Like, it was kind of one of those. And what I worked out through the ironing out of that was that it wasn't actually really in alignment for me to be a business coach at that time. I didn't have the pieces I have now. And some of those pieces were all the trauma therapy I went and did with my clients, because, to me, I have this, it comes back to that original desire when I studied OT. I wanted to be fully holistic. I wanted to be able to address all of the stuff behind an issue. So if we've got an issue here, I wanted to be able to address the mental, the emotional, the physical, the spiritual. I wanted to understand it all. And I think that intention is powerful. So it's kind of like, well, no, Leigh, you don't have these chunks or these pieces. That was the first layer. And then the second layer I've worked out is massive programs and big launches aren't for me.
Yeah.
So I coach some clients to have massive programs, of hundreds of people, because it's really in alignment with their energy type and what they've got capacity for and how they can build. But for me, it's small groups and one-to-one only. And that's it's actually in alignment with my genius, my energy capacity. If anybody's into human design, I'm a projector. I don't have a massive capacity to hold a lot. And then thirdly, and I've been a single parent now which is also my capacity. So but the third aspect of that is that I don't love it. What do I love? I love one-to-one conversations, like we're having now, but with my clients. I love the one-to-one because I like to deeply get to know the people that I work with. that's the joy in it for me, the intimacy. I mean, people have told me stuff that they've never told a single other person in their life. I hold, and that's the therapist in me, like I hold a lot of sacredness around the one-to-one relationship, and I get a lot of joy out of that. That's the thing. And seeing people grow into where they're meant to be, or get more in alignment, or have realizations around integrity, or you know, but also too, like I said, to be able to go into anything. We can't do that in a container of 200 people. I can't go, right now, I can feel your relationship's affecting this. Let's go spend 3/4 of the session on the relationship, because that's affecting your capacity and your alignment in your business, which is affecting your money flow. Right. I can't do that in a huge program. So for me to be able to stay true to what I'm passionate about, that, and I can do it in groups I do groups up to 10 at the moment. So, but you know, because I do get to know them, like I get to know individually their energies. So I'm not saying I'll never do a course or never do a program, but right now it's not in alignment. It's just not in alignment. And if I went to chase the money, which is what I was doing back then, if I went to chase the money, it can take me out of alignment. I do believe you can money and be in alignment, but if I go chasing the money, that's where I ended up in trouble. So, you know, that was a massive redirect. I had to sit and go, what is this actually about? And it was like, okay, the part of you that's more spiritual. And so a lot of my branding became your soul aligned life, even in the individual. So even though I was doing trauma therapy and a bunch of other things, I've always had that connection to soul. And so we've always covered off on anything that would impact on somebody, from their ancestral to their past lives, to, you know, to their childhood, to whatever the block is. And that's what kinesiology taught me. It taught me that quite often I might have in my head that I think something is this, and that's the problem. But then I would muscle test it, and it would go, oh no, it relates to this. It relates to the relationship with dad, or relates to this, it relates to that. And so that kinesiology, I think, trained my intuition. It's not the only thing that trained my intuition, but it trained my intuition to get out of my head as so much.
Yeah, wow.
Around what? So now people will, sometimes I do dive into kinesiology. I can do that by distance. I can sit here and muscle test. That can be part of the session. But sometimes it's just an intuitive download, or we may I'll just scan the field for, like, okay, yeah, no, like for instance, around the issue of capacity. Oh, relationships good, family's good. You know, so I'm just scanning what's going on. Oh, but the issues here are the issues in the team, or whatever it is. So, and then sometimes clients just come with me with a list of decisions to make, because I don't know about you, Amanda, but even for myself, it's so much easier for me to grow my clients' business. But in our own business, we kind of get decision fatigue.
Yeah.
And we kind of, we often procrastinate on, because we're not sure which way to go, or we've just got that there's too many decisions to make, that we don't make any at all. So quite often my clients will come to me with a list of, like, oh, these are the 7 things I want to look at. Like, what's pricing on that program? Everything from something strategic and marketing or whatever, to, oh, I'm just not feeling the energy for this anymore. Is this still in alignment? Or, you know, this team member, I'm concerned about what's going on there. And, you know, so there'll be, so every session is different.
Yeah.
And I have a high need for variety. Like, that's my personality. So that suits me. So my work suits me. So I guess in a nutshell, that's kind of how I got there. There's so much more to that story, particularly the pieces around learning to live via my intuition. But it's really been a process of trial and error.
Absolutely. And that's what this whole series is about getting in tune with our intuition. That's, soul-led life. That's following your heart's desire, your soul's desire. Can you share a little bit about, so you said that kinesiology is what really like was a big tool in helping you to listen to your intuition or train your intuition. Are there any other big tools or processes that you found to be really useful that our listeners could, start with today?
Yeah. Oh, perfect. Yeah, no, absolutely. So I have a process I call the soul alignment meditation, but it's really simple. Anybody can do it, and I don't even need to guide you through it. Basically, all I do is I connect from my feet, imagining tree roots going into the earth. So I'm connecting to the grounded energy of the earth, which is stable. And I see that kind of keeps it 3D,
Yeah.
So, and I bring the energy up through the body.
Mm-hmm.
And then I imagine that my crown chakra is open.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that I'm connecting to higher self and soul. And then only, different people have different words for it, the universe, source, God, but then only unconditionally loving energy can come through the crown chakra is my command.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I'm in that space, if I just stay in that space, and you can even view the light just flowing over you if you like. If you stay in that space, then quite often it's calming. So you're getting into more of that parasympathetic state, because this is the thing about intuition. You can't really hear it when you're in a stress or a sympathetic nervous system response, or you're running around in your head, basically. You have to be in a place of listening, which usually requires some stillness. So you get that parasympathetic nervous system effect. But then quite often I'll find that my clients have a place where their body will respond. So for instance, around decision making, if I have a question and it's a yes or a no, I get in that soul aligned space and I go into the energy of my heart, and I feel if it's light and expanded or heavy and contracted. That's often how I will make a decision. For some people, that energy expansion or contraction is in their gut, depends on their energy type, but it's usually one or two of those centers. So it's really the practice of dropping out of the head and into that yes or no, can be as a felt sense. But it also can be just in terms of, so to me, that becomes, it's a dialogue of listening. It's a dialogue. And most people have an experience of intuition. They go, yeah, my intuition said not go to that party, and it was apparently a train wreck or whatever. So they'll have that. But so many times people will override it.
Yeah.
Right. And so there's actually got to be a commitment to not override.
Yeah. And that can be tough sometimes when you're new to this.
That's the practice. But the more you do the practice of listening to your intuition, the more, so when I was new at intuition, a lot of things would show up as signs and symbols, like, repetitive numbers or a number plate. So there was a number plate that I realized was linking to my higher self, nudging me to write. And so every time I hadn't written for a while, because writing was really important to me at one phase, just in terms of getting my flow going, every time I hadn't written for a while, I would see this number plate, like this particular configuration, or you might see an animal over and over again. So when I was kind of really beginning with my intuition, I would listen to those signs and symbols and then use my intuition to interpret them, or like, let's say I've got a lizard that dives into my pool. Let's say I keep seeing the lizard, right? You can have an imaginary conversation with the lizard, and you might go, this is imaginary, this is bullshit. But I don't care if you're accessing the higher self of the lizard, or if you're just accessing some intuitive message that's dropping in through your imagination, whatever, we could argue that, but it doesn't matter. Quite often there'll be useful information from the lizard. So there's just so many ways you can access information around intuition, but it's the understanding that intuition is not a parlor trick. Intuition is communication from your higher self and soul, and communication from maybe other beings that are more elevated than you. And to live, if you want to live an authentic life, if you want to be free of programming, then living via your intuition is basically what that is. And, so I think intuition's kind of been undervalued. It's been undervalued in our culture. A lot of my decisions I've made from intuition, even selling my last house. I got home from a holiday and I walked in the door and I went, right, I've got to sell the house. I rang the agent. he came over. Oh, I texted, he's a friend of mine. I texted the agent. He came over that day. He was like, it all just went boom, 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 boom. It all flew with absolute ease. And I pretty much picked the exact time of the top of the market. And I didn't know that at the time. And it wasn't that I was using my logic going, how can I make the most money out of this? And the reason why I sold it wasn't actually just for money, though that was definitely a massive part of it. But it's actually where I've ended up is so much better for me and my kids, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't have any thinking around that. There was no need for thinking around that. It was just like, nah, it's time to do it. Okay, cool. So I trust it when it comes that strong and I just do it. Then my life flows with so much more ease. I'm not trying to make something happen. I'm not throwing a goal into the thing and going, how can I get from here to here to here? Which there's nothing wrong with goal setting, but you have to have the flexibility to listen to your intuition. If it says, no, turn left here.
Yeah.
It's going to be a better path for you. Your higher self knows that. Your human self does not.
Exactly. And I know that's what can be really scary for some people. I mean, you know, if logically, all logic says go this way, but there's just that niggling little feeling that no, I should be going this way, it can be very hard to make that choice.
Particularly when sometimes we're talking about people giving up careers or, you know, leaving relationships or, you know, for me, when I moved up the coast, I had a full practice of kinesiology and logically my head's going, what are you doing? This is insane. You're starting again to move to the Sunshine Coast. Like you could just go up there on the weekend, right? But my knowing and my intuition was like, no, it's time to go. And there's going to be so many other benefits for this. I don't know yet. I just know that I've got to listen. So, yeah, it does take courage. It takes courage to listen to your intuition. But you also get so much more rewarded for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
You know, and that's like, and people, you know, this is why I say, you know, people will often focus on the money, but the rewards could come via money, but it could come via lifestyle. So I would have earned more money if I'd stayed in Brisbane, but the lifestyle we've had here is so much more abundant. Like me and the kids, like we basically live in a holiday place that people come and pay thousands of dollars to stay. And you know, so here I am living in paradise. I mean, cool, if anybody's interested. Up from First Bay, my favorite beach. And, you know, it's just, for me, that decision is up there with the best decision I've ever made.
Yeah.
And I know that in hindsight, but I couldn't have known that at the time. It was just scary.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think from my perspective, I'm probably preaching to the converted with a lot of people around intuition. But when you develop that communication with your higher self and soul that is strong in that way, and then your life is just by inherently more magical.
Yeah, 100%. And just to touch on a point that you were talking about earlier, I really love how you talk about the intuition in relation to the nervous system. This is something that's certainly become apparent for me, is how much our intuition is distorted by the state of our nervous system and how important it is to come into, you know, a regulated state. I mean, we're not always going to be in a regulated state. That's just, you know, not natural human way of being. But we move through these turbulent times. And, you know, I think many people are often dysregulated more than what they are regulated.
Yes.
And so you did share about that practice, the meditation practice that
I mean, that's just one process, because if I've got somebody with a big history of trauma so that their nervous system is dialed up all the time and activated all the time, we have to address that trauma.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, you are not going to have a thriving business with a whole bunch of that going on. I just haven't seen it. I mean, maybe some people can push, but not my clients. Like, So you'll be able to grow to a certain level of success with that in terms of, but it's not just that. It's just how is living with that hypervigilant nervous system like for you? It's not fun. You fly off the handle, you're not sleeping, you're stressed, you're not feeling the juice of life and the joy of life, you have no sex drive. All of these things that happen for people when they have that trauma still stored in the body. Yeah. And so I'll often take, there's lots of paths I can take with my therapeutic background with trauma, but one of the ways I work with my clients so they can work with their own trauma is more of a parts approach. So quite often when you say, oh, the intuition can get distorted, the intuition doesn't get distorted. You're actually listening to a fearful part of you or a protective part of you. And those voices can be very loud, or they can literally, parts can literally take over your whole body. So I used to have a part that used to make me sleepy. It would go, no, we've reached the threshold of success here. Like, you need to go have a nap. I don't want you to stretch above this. And so these parts are trying to protect you. So that's incredibly powerful. If you can imagine a little part of your nervous system, or, I really see them as individual identities, like the inner, for instance, or, different voices, they form to protect you and to keep you safe. But then they become kind of out of touch with what you really need in the present moment. And so I do a lot of parts work with people in terms of, we go, right, okay, let's identify that part, speak to that part, soothe that part, get it on board. So we can move forward. Because, there's a lot of shaming in the more kind of masculine-based coaching frameworks. I like to think I'm a nice combo of feminine and masculine, and I know we talked about this in the past when we chatted, but the masculine frameworks will be very much like, just do it. And if you don't do it, you're lazy. Like, there's a lot of shaming sort of energy in that. And quite often all that does is paralyze my clients even further. They come in judging themselves for the fact they haven't taken action. They know they should be posting on social media regularly, but they're not, or whatever it is. And I'm like, we need to investigate why. Like, what part of you is stopping you from doing this? Is this a fear of being seen, or is this a fear of being successful? Are you worried that your dad's going to attack you if you're more successful than him? Like, it can be so many reasons, and we need to connect to that within the person's own being and their own body. So, and having said that, I also believe there's a place for the masculine in terms of, if we just keep digging into our reasons why we are this way endlessly, and we don't necessarily move or create the beautiful masculine structure or systems that support our business, for instance, then it's like, then we're kind of, we're not balanced in that approach either. So, while the intuitive approach and that I use is very feminine by nature, it's also going into, okay, masculine, what's going to support that so that this can go to the next level? Or what action steps would it be good to commit to? Let's clear what's ever in the way of that. But what's I call it the bare minimum marketing, because I claim I am lazy. Like and I see lazy as a genius, because it's like, what is the shortcut? What's the easiest way? So what's the bare minimum marketing a person needs to do to have flow in their business? It's different for every single person. Some people that's like 3 posts a day. For some people, it's 3 posts a week. For some people, it's like 1 email newsletter. I had one of my first business clients was a massage therapist and hairdresser, and she just wanted to go from 60% capacity to 100% capacity. And besides dealing with some stuff around her mother's grief, we only did 2 things to get there. One of the simplest coaching things ever. I said to her, I want you to send a newsletter once a month to remind all your existing people you exist, and you can put in, your stuff around whatever you want to inform them of. And to ask 1 question, are they coming back in 2 or 4 weeks or 6 weeks, instead of like just leaving them hanging. And she had to overcome that mindset of like that being pushy. And I'm like, well, actually, no, you're taking it off their plate of thinking,
Yeah.
oh, I have to another appointment. You're doing it right there and then. You're helping them make their life more efficient. And they can always cancel. You're not forcing them to take an appointment. They can always say, no, I don't want an appointment at all. But those two things just took her business from 60 to 100%. Like, that is a very simple marketing plan.
Very simple. If only it were that easy for everyone.
Yeah, and not everyone's going to have that success. She obviously already had a reputation and a word of mouth build up over many years, and so that was relatively simple. But for other people, are going to need a lot more complexity, everything from funnels or to and that's what we work out. What do you actually need, not what do you think you need.
And is this something, sorry to interject, is this something that you can help them identify via communicating with the business entity, as in what the business entity requires, or it's in
so it downloads. So I'm communicating from my higher self to their higher self. And sometimes I go up to soul level and I'll communicate to soul level. But I'm also communicating with the level of the business. So the information may come from soul, higher self, or it may come from the business around, okay, this is what is next needed. And then, of course, my logic will come in. I'll go, right, I think it's this. And then I can muscle test or tune in to whether that is in alignment for the person. And then things change. So, I designed one of my clients, we designed a program. It went really well for like 3 rounds of her training program. And then it was like, and then it changed what it needed, and so the program had to be shifted and changed. And she got a lot of that download herself because she's really, and that's ideal. And then that, because she's really tuned into her intuition, she's going, I think it needs to be this, 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 and this. And all I was confirming that for her and going, yep. And going, oh, I feel like it needs to be 8 weeks, not 10 weeks. Like, that's what the muscle test is showing me. And then she goes, oh, that would work really well, actually, because the date's just like, so, it's kind of that becomes this collaborative process of, oh, what is the business? Because the business will have creations attached to it. So, for instance, if somebody's going to do an online program, that might come in as an idea, as a creation. If they're divinely inspired, they'll be connected to the business, and they have their own little kind of sub life, right? Like almost an offshoot. So the creations I actually believe are often gifted to the person. It's kind of like as a way to, and that can be anything. I view lots of things as a creation, like buying a house could be a creation. Having a holiday could be a creation, but an online program could be a creation. A book could be a creation. So there's a whole bunch of those things will start to drop in, but sometimes I see them before the client does, and I'll say, hey, I'm seeing this book, or I'm seeing this program wants to come in. And so the way I see it is, it's kind of like waiting for the right time to land. So our job is just to clear the way for it to land, and then it lands with the business. And then it starts to land in the person's body because as a creation and as something that's with the world. So the clearing the way for that, like one of my clients recently who's got a really successful business, he had a creation that's been brewing for 2 years, like, on top of his regular offerings. It's just been like, I know I'm going to do this. We need to do this and we're going to do this. And the ideas have been percolating for a while. And then I was like, then we hit this session. I was like, why is this not coming through yet? Like, it's time. It's right. It's ready. And so then we just did this session on what within him was stopping and blocking that from coming through. And there was some false beliefs. There was some perceptions around him being qualified enough. It was just all false. Like, he's ultra qualified to do that program. But, it's like birthing a baby. There's a nervousness attached to it for people. And it's like, okay, well, let's make the birth as smooth as possible. And that's where I see, I guess, I become that support with that. And just seeing the stuff they can't see. Like, it's false belief from childhood, and if they haven't connected to it or whatever it is, once it's seen and it's known, then it loses most of the power straight away.
Yeah.
Just from being exposed.
Yeah.
Then we can do a little bit of energy work or whatever to help like shift it out, or some reframing or whatever tools we need to do. But it's actually usually the identification of what the issue is that is the problem in the first place.
Yeah, because we're obviously, when you're the business owner trying to work it all out, we can often be so blinded by our own stuff. Like, we can't identify it, or sometimes we can identify it, but it can take a little bit longer to get there and to identify it. And so being able to come...
That's so key. Like, and I want my clients to be able to identify. I want them to learn tools as they go through so they can. But we're always going to have our blind spots, because those parts will really protect things it doesn't want us to see. Or it's just outside our view, your intuition's not quite strong enough. And it's, this is why I have a person I go to, because I'll go, I've been feeling really like, just crap. I've got no idea what's going on. It's easier for her to see it, just like it is for me to see it, because we're not personally involved.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So I'm like, well, that's so while I can access so much myself, I also sometimes still need somebody else. But even if there's no massive blocks, like, then the coaching moves into, how do we move this forward? Then it becomes more that masculine. Let's put in the place the plans and the strategy, or it's time to change your online booking system so that it's more automated, whatever it is. So it's kind of, it's just, for me, that process is, I did so much on my own for way too long.
Yeah.
But then part of the reason I did that was because I'd invest in these expensive business coaches that just provided the cookie cutter advice. And I knew on some level it wasn't right for me. And then I was frustrated and annoyed.
Yeah. When because if it's not right for you, it's not going to work, or it will only work for a little bit. And then it'll stop working. Yeah.
So I guess that's why I'm so passionate about what I do, because it's business energetics, it's bespoke, and but it's the ball is still in the client's court, because it's like, well, they're the one doing the business, it's not me, and they're the ones still making the decisions and following through with the actions, but I'm there to support them. To get as in alignment, to build their capacity, and to have that flow, as like you said, as quickly and freely, as lazily and quickly as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I love what you do, Leigh. Like, I think I called it the holy trinity when we were talking earlier, because with business coaches, and I think you even put a post out about this, they can help you to get the system set up and help you with your intuition, or like, tuning into your business entity or whatever. But if the capacity isn't there, and if the trauma is still there, then none of that's actually gonna be effective, or truly effective, for long. And so I love how you have that foundation of clearing the trauma, identifying the trauma, clearing the trauma, connecting with the business entity as well. So now you're getting clarity on the way of the business, and you're getting the structure to move forward. Amazing.
Thank you so much for that, because I'm recognizing that, because I think that's those pieces are so important. I mean, and when you talk about the trauma thing, I think that's worth just a little more something else that I want to say is that I often work with really beautifully intentioned people who have trauma patterns of overgiving, or the trauma term for that is fawn. And so, and a lot of the heart-centered, caring people tend to that end of the spectrum. So they, how does that show up in business? It might show up with they've got poor boundaries with clients, they're attracting people who are taking advantage of them, they, they get ripped off easily, they might feel like that they've got demanding clients or people that are, pulling on their energy or blaming them for things, not taking responsibility. So the patterns you have from your trauma are going to translate over into your business every single day. Or even if they don't, you manage to have great boundaries there, then the capacity issues that come from trauma, because let's say you go get triggered by your boyfriend or whatever, is going to create this up and down sort of roller coaster experience for people in business, which is fine to have up and down cash flow if what your ups are really up.
Yeah.
But a lot of my clients, which depends on the business model, like if someone's doing a launch process and that's normal, then the money's just got to last, the cash flow's got to last or whatever. But a lot of the clients that want more of the consistency, that's what they come to me. They go, oh, I'm really sick of it. It's too distressing. It's too traumatizing in itself.
Yeah. That's just compounding.
Yeah, it's just compounding upon the trauma. Yeah. Like, there's no stability, there's no consistency in my life. My business isn't supporting me. The people in my life aren't supporting me. So quite often we have to look at those relationships around people. And sometimes it's realizing that one of their friends is undermining them and eroding their confidence, or one of their, or that thing from the past is still sitting there and their nervous system is going, what's going to happen bad next? It's not a great platform to grow from. So even though in my sessions, depending on what the person needs, how deep we go to that, they may need to do other work outside it as well, or they may not, depending on the depth of the trauma. But we want to get them out of any trauma or drama flows. Those are things that are just going to completely, not support the business. But, once people are out of there, it's more about what are we going to create next? What are we going to create? What are we going to create next? And that's such a joyous place to be in that. And then there's just tweaking, like I said, everyone, even the most successful entrepreneurs I have, they'll go through periods where they go, I'm just not on my game, or I'm just not feeling the love for the business. And then we've got to work out why that is and tweak that.
Yeah.
Because it's not like, I'm like, oh, you want to grow, have a baby and have a business.
I know.
Relationship, have a baby, a business, and a relationship, you're really going to grow.
100%.
These things are going to kind of bring up your stuff.
And I think especially if you're a soul-led business, because it really is, moving from the heart and integrity to your soul, and you're going to be shown everything
the rules are different when it's soul-led. And for some people, like, sometimes I think, can't I just be one of those really human program people who, just goes out there and, like, I don't know, sells something meaningless, like to me, it might be meaningful to someone else, sells someone like meaningless that nobody needs, and like just rakes in the dollars and whatever. And I'm like, well, no, I can't. Because my soul goes, well, that would be totally not even enjoyable for you, even if you would succeed at it, which I'm not going to let you succeed at it because it's way off alignment. And I'm not saying it needs to be like have this beautiful heal the world intention to be in alignment or soul led. I've got business owners that sell cosmetics or like diamonds or whatever. It doesn't, but there is a real resonance with them, with their product, and an alignment with their product, and a belief in their product, and that's and the journey of having that business is really in alignment with them. So that's what makes it soul-led or not. But you're not going to get, if your soul's like mine, you're not going to get to decide to just something that's 100% off alignment, because you're not going to succeed at it anyway.
Yeah, that's the same as me. That's the same as me. Yeah.
So it's kind of just like, it's just accepting that's the contract I chose, I think, as a soul when I came in. It's like, having said that, I'm able to make money off things that outside of my business. I have real estate, I've made money from crypto in the past. It's like, again, that has to be on alignment on some level.
Yeah.
And for me, it's fun. It's usually that's the tip. It's like I actually really love real estate. Like I'm listening to podcasts about it. I like whatever. I'm like looking at different houses. I was married to a builder. I just think it rubbed off. But I think that, so it's even that, quite often, so it's a whole of life business coaching in the sense of that. And I call myself a business strategist and medium because the medium is the intuitive part, like I'm reading the energy of the business. The strategy is sometimes what people like need the clarity on. But I'm still a coach and a therapist in the background. So it's kind of like, depending on what you
every session is different.
You get a little bit
of this, a little bit of that.
Yes, a little bit of that.
And sorry, if you don't mind sharing a little bit about, so you talked about when you weren't in alignment with doing your big launch and how that just completely flopped. Sometimes we don't get the complete flops right away when we're not in alignment, and it starts with the feeling, like you start to know.
Yes.
Is that something that you can share anything about how you're in alignment and how you're starting to drift off alignment before you have to experience a big crash and boom?
So I guess that's a great question. So I think there's a few aspects to that. Usually, like we've said already, it just won't work. So using that example of the client had filled her program 3 times before, actually stopped working.
She stopped getting filled. She didn't
actually get the numbers.
Right.
And she'd been able to do that usually with no paid advertising, just through organics. And so that was like, that was really, it was a curiosity point, because she's sitting there, and to her credit, she did all the exact right inquiries. She's sitting there and went, why isn't this working? Like, is this a capacity issue? Is the issue me and my capacity? Is this an alignment issue? Or does this want to be different? And she actually had to sit in the space of not knowing for a little bit. Before that landed. Now, sometimes people they'll come into the session with me and I go, oh, it's not landed yet. And they're going, but I want to know. And I'm like, we can certainly bring it in as soon as the clarity's there, as soon as I can see it, as soon as I'm allowed to see it, honestly. I have such a reverence for people's higher selves and souls and their business. Those energies are not going to let me see something unless I'm allowed to. That's the way it is. So I'm like, okay, sometimes we've got to be in that space. So quite often it's because it's not working. Sometimes it's because you've lost the joy. So it's a feeling of like, I used to love working. Now it feels like a job. Like it feels like a heavy task. So sometimes it's in the feeling that it's not in alignment. Or sometimes your clients, particularly if you're a service-based business, will start to reflect back what's not in alignment. So literally it's a mirror. So, sometimes you might have clients that are just not moving. And so sometimes, because I'm a therapist, I end up doing kind of clinical supervision with people, and I'll go, right, I've got these clients like doing my head in. And it's like, that's trying to show you something sometimes, right? It's not the only reason why it could be doing your head in, but it's trying to show you something. Sometimes then we just have to hone the ideal client, but sometimes it's showing you something where you're not in alignment. And then, it may show up there, or it could show up financially too, or in lack of flow of clients. It's like the program doesn't fill, or clients don't come in, or for some reason there's money drains going on, and we go, well, what's with the money drains? And then we work out it's an alignment issue, or it's even in integrity issues. So one of my clients had successfully marketed his program in a certain way for many years, where it kind of offered this guarantee which wasn't quite 100% true. And it's kind of, it worked for a while, and then his soul raised the standards, and then it was like, wow, that messaging just isn't right anymore. And so we just tweaked the messaging, we tweaked the promise or the guarantee so that it was more 100% in integrity, not 96%, whatever. So, you know, I think the energies on the planet are changing, and this is, you know, I get a lot of guidance from my mentor on this, but the energies on the planet are changing, and sometimes that means we're actually being called to be better.
Yeah.
Really, you know, I really
step it
think
up.
not engage in any kind of dodgy contracts. Energetic. And that's energetic as much as it is. But having said that, the systems really support it. Another one of my clients, like, you know, when she had a client show up that caused all these issues, it was like, right, terms and conditions need to change. Like the systems and the, you know, the client agreement they sign needs to change. The systems and the structures support that as well, but also your energy. You know, it's not so simple, but it is true to an extent. We get back somewhat what we put out.
I love how it's like just a slight little nuance in some cases, just a slight little nuance in
sometimes
messaging.
It's just a tweak. Like sometimes my sessions are deep, life-changing, transformational stuff. But sometimes all we're doing is tweaking. It's like, we make that tweak and then it works. You know? So the small and the big, you know, it can be like, it can be both. But, you know, those things, when you're soul led, they really, really matter. They matter. You know, if you sit there or using other people's marketing and messaging and languaging rather than developing your own, like quite often that's an out of an alignment issue. If you're lacking inspiration, so that's another key of lack of alignment. Like you can't write or create content that feels inspired from you. You've got to kind of copy it off somebody else. Big red flag there around alignment and clarity on messaging and who you are and what you offer. And so we have to go back to that and go, right, okay. You know, and that can be even using some of the proprietary language that's unique to you, you know. So for me, some of that proprietary language is things like clarity. It's things like the business medium, the spirit of business. Other people use those terms, but they are 100% correct for me and the way I operate. And that's what we're checking into. So if I just go, oh, this is the latest thing. So, you know, for instance, people use that the term codes. Oh, I'm downloading codes. I went to use that once. So I went, it's not actually quite in alignment for me or how I view energy. So I'm not going to use it. It's trendy. But I'm not going to use it, right? So it's, you know, I know this sounds like so finite, but for me, my soul holds me to that standard, but not everybody's does. Or my business entity does. And so, you know, but I think I have incredible, like I love tuning into the business entities. They literally have their own flavor or their own energy. You know, I tuned into one of my clients the other days, and hers looks to me like a golden triangle. And it's interesting because she has a trinity of modalities. And I'm like, how strong is a triangle? A triangle's a really, really strong thing. And you know, so when I tune into the energy of it, it has its own flavor or energy that comes with it. It's in alignment with who she is, but it's slightly different in the sense that it's got an energy. So, you know, sometimes that becomes really clear to me. Sometimes it doesn't. It's just what's needed. I really just see I get what's needed. Like that's my intention. So yeah, so I guess, yeah, does that explain it? I think.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thank you.
Yeah.
And just before we wrap up today, Leigh, we'll ask for where we can contact you and everything. But before we do that, if someone is out there, you know, struggling to get consistent clients or consistent flow, money flow, cash flow in their business, whatever it may be, is there one or two pieces of information or tips that you could give them to help identify what it is?
Oh, yeah. So yeah, to help identify what it is, I think that's a good question. You know, again, everybody is 100% different.
Yes.
So, but I would just encourage them to come back to, firstly, those two concepts. Is there anything affecting my capacity? You know, am I getting involved in a drama with my sister-in-law or whatever, and it's draining my energy and my focus and my team? Is there anything affecting my capacity? Is what I'm doing in alignment? You know, and so asking those two questions, is what I'm doing in alignment? Is there anything affecting my capacity? And then just going into the masculine, like, what's my first step?
Yeah.
What's my first? Because we get so overwhelmed. It's just like, what's the next thing? The next most important thing, you know? So sometimes people will go in their head, in their programming. And I'm saying, ask your higher self that. Like, go, higher self and spirit of my business, what's my next step? Right? So that, because people go, you know, oh, I need the fancy business cards. Well, I don't even have these new business cards with my new branding, because if I met somebody networking, I would just throw it in my phone. I'm like, no, you don't need to spend 5 weeks developing beautiful business cards.
Yeah.
You'd be better off posting a little bit more regularly on social media, or sending an email to your email list, or inviting, you know. So sometimes people go chasing the big shiny thing. And quite often, like, where I always start is with existing clients or existing databases. Like, everyone wants the new client. Just get the old client to come back. Like, you know, it's not that. Or, you know, so that it's like, what's the next step? And for different people, you know, for the clients of mine that are turning over hundreds of thousands a year, the next step is going to look very different from the person that's just trying to fill their herbalist practice or whatever.
Yeah.
But I work with both, because as long as the person's willing to commit to that process, because I don't have a judgment of either. I don't have that person's there as a result of their capacity and their alignment and their action.
Yeah.
That's why they're there.
Yeah.
The person that's just starting out is there as a result of their capacity and there's no judgment. Like, if this person's experienced a truckload of trauma and that person hasn't, that's why I don't kind of talk about, oh, you know, do you want to go from 6 to 7 figures? Like, to me, if that's our goal, if that comes up as aligned, like it has for one of my clients in the last week, it was like, oh, you're turning over this, it wants to be double that. I'm like, great, it's great to put a money goal in the thing, but not arbitrarily, because if you don't have the basics of capacity and alignment, then you don't have an attractive field for your business.
Yeah, 100%. And I love that integrity in you. Like, I think I saw another one of your posts where it was like, you know, I don't promise you to make 10K, 20K, 5K, whatever it is. I don't promise you anything, because, like, for somebody to make 10K a month might be in their capacity now and in their alignment now.
Might be easy, right? You know, for me, it's like, once you reach a certain set point of financial, and sometimes we do work just strictly on money, though not as much as people might think, but sometimes when you reach a certain set point for money, that is just your normal. And then you can build from there. And so everybody, it's like, what's your normal at, and what's your normal at, and what's your normal at, and what's your normal at. And so it's kind of like, it's easy to create from that set point, or that, you know, that threshold. And it's certainly been my experience. This was another fascinating thing I learned through my years of business. There was that time when I was doing a lot of Facebook advertising, and and there was, and I was doing that, and I was getting so much more turnover. But at the end of the year, when I looked at the year before, I had the same profit. And I was like, oh my God, all that marketing for the same profit. And I could clearly see the issue was my set point. It wasn't that I needed to do more necessarily, though I'm sure I will do advertising at some point again, but it wasn't that I needed to do more Facebook ads, because I did and it worked, but then my expenses were so much higher. So my profit was exactly the same. I was like, so my lifestyle was exactly the same because that was my set point. So, you know, those kind of issues, like what can a person create, depends on that, depends on their ability to work, depends on how much support they have, depends on how much systems and structures they have, how much team they've got. And so one of my missions is to support people to just stop judging themselves, right? And no, for one of my clients, it's like, she's actually built wealth in other areas of her life, you know, from having a job, and she's kind of, you know, pushing towards retirement age. And she has a solo business that's come through, and the business just said to me, I only want to earn 40 grand a year. She doesn't need, my purpose on the planet is not to make money. It's actually to have her be in her genius and share that gift, because that's the joy and that's the flow for her. And when she's in that, she's in her intuitive space. And this lady's a medium. So that's exactly what. And I'm like, cool. Well, then let's just get it to that. Let's get it to, it's not the money goal, it's the client goal and the ability for her to have, like, to retire into a space where, and she can do it until she's 90 because she doesn't enjoy. You know? It's like, there's no, it's not about that. So there is no judgment or expectation. And sometimes the person, like I said, you want to grow, be in business. Sometimes the purpose a person goes and engages in business is from a soul level, is mainly about grow. For some people, that's true. And there are some of my clients that have a part-time job that supports their business until their business supports them. There is no right or wrong. There's just right for you. But, you know, everybody wants what these, you know, big coaches sometimes promise, or they think they want it. They think it's in alignment. You know, they want the $1 million a year or whatever. But when I look at it, I ask myself the question, do I really want that? Because to have that, I've got to have a team of so many people. I'm going to have to spend a lot more time on marketing than I do face-to-face clients. And while I enjoy spending some time on marketing, I don't want to be a marketer who coaches. Right. And that's fine if you do. If your genius is marketing, there's nothing wrong with that. But for me personally, I go, do I want that?
No, I don't want that. No.
No, so it's kind of like, there's got to be a happy medium for me where I can still earn, you know, the money I want to earn, for the lifestyle I want to earn. But, you know, the other massive light bulb for me was to really look at the sources of income that have come in for me. For instance, there were 2 years where I made more from real estate than I made from my business, for instance. And well, more than 2 years, really, if we looked at how much capital growth's been involved. I'm like, well, that's easier. You know? So there's not only one path to money as well. And, you know, then I've got clients that have a lot of shame because they're supported by their partner or whatever. And I'm like, I'm 100% on board with you building a business that will sustain you if your partner died tomorrow or if that money disappeared or whatever. But you don't need to have shame over receiving it. Like, this is the feminine receptivity, like the genius of the feminine is I can receive something for nothing. Great. I'm like, good on you for manifesting that. You know, particularly if the relationship's healthy and there's no sort of kind of contract in that. It's just, you just gifted to the person. I'm like, so what? Who cares where it comes from? But you know that, but the business, like, but having said that, you know, the business, there are many businesses that want to be bigger.
Yeah, and that's right for some people. And then, but that's something that I'm thinking of when you talk about it, is like some coaches are charging, 30, 40, 50K for you know, short immersions with them, or one-on-one sessions with them. For me, that is not in alignment with me. So they could be making their $1 million by charging somebody 40K, but for me, that's not in alignment for me to charge that much money.
No, and look, I mean, certainly the bigger we get there, the more I sense issues around in integrity. But there are some people who are charging that who are in integrity. And when I would never spend that, because honestly, I get amazing support, much cheaper than that. I can't imagine at this point in my life anyway, ever spending 50K, on a 3-day immersion or something. But if somebody wants to do that, I'm just curious, I'm like, why are they doing that? Are they doing it because they're buying the hype, or they're buying the promise that's false? Or perhaps they're not. Perhaps they're buying an experience.
Yeah.
They're buying, quite often they'll be inspired by those people who make, some people benefit from being around people who inspire them to create that. That's less me, because I feel too much the danger in I'll then want to model them rather than be who I am in the business. But each to their own. I have no judgment. If somebody wants to spend $100,000 on coaching in an immersion, fine. But as long as that person isn't promising something they can't promise, and therefore they're in fraud energy. Like, I just look at the energy and I see it all the time, the false guru energy, the fraud energy. And it's the shadow of the coaching industry, and it gives the industry a bad name. The other I sometimes joke and call it the coaching Ponzi scheme. Pays 10,000, and then that person pays 20,000, that person pays 50,000, and that person pays 100,000, and it's kind of like, I just cannot see that person could be getting delivered that much transformation. But whatever, it's I'm if you want to align yourself with that and fall for that too, but please, I say some of my clients are really working hard to pay for my services, some more than others, right? Like, but I don't want people to go into crippling credit card debt to pay for my services. I can't control if they do, because that's going to be their choice, but I don't feel good about that, because I don't think that supports a person. I'm happier to say to them, go get a part-time job so that you can pay for my coaching, than I am to say, if that feels really important and an alignment for you, and you can only sit with that. But my prices are within reach for a lot of people. But a lot of people's prices, if they're not in reach, just don't buy the FOMO that you're missing out and that you need that person. No one needs that person. They don't even need me. Now, will they get there quicker and faster and with more ease? I believe so. But they don't need me. And so don't buy into, I've got to spend 20 grand on this program when I, could be like, it breaks my heart when I see, particularly as a single parent, some of the single parents and things fall for this and like, spend their life savings that could be the legacy for their child on a program that gives them nothing. It makes me angry, to be honest. It's a real shadow side of the industry. But having said that, that's the growth of the person in learning what's real and learning how to see. I really feel very fortunate in that I almost feel like I was born with a reasonably strong intuition around fake people and facade and all of that in particular. Like, I've always been like, oh, stay away. And so I feel kind of fortunate in that, but I understand not everybody has that. And some of this marketing is incredibly manipulative. I studied NLP, but I don't use it in the language of my marketing. And I don't use fear-based. If you don't sign up for me, then you're going to miss out on this. And I don't even use FOMO based strategies, you know. So, but that's, I think the good news is people are getting better and better at seeing through it. Would you agree?
Yeah. And I think a lot more people are waking up to the fact, maybe they've experienced it, and they're waking up to the fact that, well, after they've invested with this coach and this coach and this coach, and still they get the most work out of doing the work themselves or something like that.
You know, like something more practical, like, you know, you got to look at what are you buying. So sometimes people will buy those 3-day retreats or whatever. They're buying feel good.
Yeah.
Does feel good last? Does it make a big impact on your business? Probably not. Right? Which is fine if you want to buy feel good. I mean, I buy feel good all the time. I go on a holiday, like the picture in my background, you know, I'm buying. But, you know, for me, that don't pretend it's going to be massively transformation if it's just feel good.
Yeah.
You know, and so this is where, like, a lot of the spiritual trends I kind of have a little giggle at, honestly. It's my way of kind of like, oh we'll see, you know.
Yeah.
And there are plenty of good coaches and therapists, healers out there doing good work, and I want to acknowledge that, and who are in integrity. And I'm just so fortunate to call a lot, you know, a chunk of them my clients. You know, I'm just blessed with the beautiful people that come and work with me, and it's just all about alignment. You know, one of my clients said to me the other day, oh, I spoke to such and such, and she said, you're the real deal. You're the real deal. I thought to myself, that's the best compliment you could give me. I'm really happy to be real, you know, I don't want to be fake, and I don't want to be promising something I can't deliver. I really I'm like, okay, the real deal is good for me. I'm really happy with that. I'm like, so when people start to talk to you about that, I've always had a significant percentage word of mouth business. Again, and when you've got that, that's when you know actually you are in alignment. If people are willing to go, oh, this person's amazing, you should see her, you're doing something correct.
100%, definitely. So Leigh, how can people work with you? What do they need to
cool. So on my website, which is leighrorke.com, I have a very simple website. It's really just leads you to one avenue, which is to connect to me on a call. And then we have a call, and then I work with people one-off sessions as just a once-off, and then usually people commit to a series of 6 sessions. And that's the conversation. But having said that, even if you think, oh, I don't think I can afford, or the timing's right, I'm happy to do that free 15-minute call. With anybody in business, you'll walk away with more clarity. That's kind of my gifting. You know, it's like, so it's not a sales call. It's just like, oh, let's tune into the spirit of your business and see, what comes up. And then, you know, it's not a sale call in the terms of, at the end of it, it's like, do we feel aligned to work with each other? I've said no to clients, and I reserve the right to say no to clients. Don't feel in alignment. Now, sometimes that's because of integrity and things like that, but sometimes it's just this sense that the person needs to go and deal with something else first, or that the timing's not correct for them, or that we're just not a match. Now, this doesn't happen very often, but I want it to feel like, oh, this is a real yes on both sides. This is a match. This is an alignment. The timing's right. Let's go. So that's to me isn't that traditional sales call. I'm not convincing you to work with me at all. If it's not a hell yes for you, I don't want you to work with me. You know, you may still have some trepidation or fear about it, which is normal. So it may not be a hell yes, but if that intuition is going, you got to do this. You got to do this. You got to do this. They're the clients I want. Like, if I've got to talk you into coming, that's icky. It's expectation, and you know, literally, people. I'm a projector, and again, this is my human design. So again, more sales-based process may be more in alignment for somebody who's a manifesting generator, for instance, or whatever. But for me, it's like the strategy of a projector is wait for the invitation. Now, I'm not 100% a human design person, but the strategies I agree with, because it's been so clear to me that when clients come and go, I want to work with you, and rather than you need to work with me. So I'm not chasing or hustling. I'm not putting my energy out. They're coming into me. So it's very much a feminine. I have a very feminine based business. Some businesses are very masculine. That outreach is part of it. Cold calling is part of it. But my business is very feminine. So the energy comes in. That they're the clients that end up being my favorite clients.
Yeah.
Even more than the people, like literally I have clients say, my intuition just said to message you. I don't know what you do.
Oh, really?
Yes. I know our higher self has been having a little chat.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Oh, like, and they're going, I need some help. She needs some help over here. And then the higher self's going, oh, you should work with Leigh. Oh, yeah, no, I can help her. That would be awesome. Yeah, she's really like my type of client. Great. So that conversation's been happening at the being level. It's not the human level. But if sometimes even people who've referred, they're still great clients quite often. They're just like, there's not that massive kind of alignment, soulmate client sort of feeling to it as there is when that happens. But, I'm so, I'm so blessed, like I said, with my clients. I learn a lot from my clients. I have clients that are far more successful in business than me, and I do not see that as a barrier. So that's the other thing that's the message in the industry, is that you have to have reached the results to be able to teach somebody how to get the results. Well, not when you're a business medium, because you're reading what's right for the business. So I have clients turning over $1 million a year. I am not turning over $1 million a year.
Yeah.
So because it's like they're just going, oh, Leigh can tune into what the business needs to get to the next level. And I can, because like I said, capacity, alignment, whatever. So the size of the business is irrelevant to me. You could be turning over 20,000 a year, or you could be turning over 2 million. I have and do work with both.
Yeah. It's amazing. I love it. I absolutely love your business model and the way that you do business. It's amazing. And that you provide that service for people, because we need it.
Yeah. Well, I just want there to be just more recognition, like I said, less judgment of self and more recognition of our own unique journey and of what's next. And that this is so much more than business. It's about our evolution as a human being, and it's about our healing, and it's about our relationships, and it's about all of that. And the idea of business, the last thing you want to do is become a slave to your own business. The idea of the business is, the business for me, it's about, my business supports my lifestyle. It supports me to be able to pick up my kids at 3 p.m. It supports me to be able to go to the beach every day. It supports me to be able to take the time off when I want to take the time off. It supports me to be a single parent. So every business has a different purpose, but it's kind of like, you can design a business that's in tune with the way you are, the way you work, with what you love to do, with what your genius is. That can be designed. Amazing. And that may take time, because it may need, like I said, more systems and structures, so you don't have to do as much admin or whatever. And I've recently let go of my VA, and I'm going to hire one, but my intuition keeps saying not till next year, because I'm changing systems. And so I'm having to do a bit more admin again. I was like, oh gee, I forgot how out of my flow this takes me. It's not ideal. So that having outsourcing things can be part of the answer. Building a team can be part of the answer. But for some people, too much team is too much team.
Yeah, that's too much in itself.
Yeah, so it's just different. You know,
Yeah.
I've got a client and we're like, oh, the bigger team, the better for his business. Like his business just wants teams so he can just like chill out. And I've got another client who I'm like, yeah, like that 3 number for her team is just perfect. Like it's perfect, but you know, combination of the outsourcing the things. But bigger, I guess I've already said this in many different ways, but bigger is not necessarily better.
No. Yeah, definitely what's right for you.
Yeah.
Thank you so very much for joining us today, Leigh, and sharing all of your beautiful wisdom and, you know, everything that you're doing to support businesses starting out, established businesses, but people who are just looking for a authentic coach to help them with where they're at and what their business needs. Thank you so much for doing what you do.
Thank you for honoring me in that way. And back to you, we haven't talked about your work today as much as we did in our intro conversation, but I love, as I said to you then, I think the work around that divine union within and masculine and feminine energies is one of the things you do. And that's something I'm really passionate about that I feel like the planet needs.
Yeah.
So back at you, lovely lady. And
thank
it's been
you.
wonderful to connect on this. And and you know, hopefully even if no one, my intention is always any contact I have that even if the person doesn't work with me, I hope they got something out of today's conversation.
I think it'll be an eye-opener for a lot of people, definitely.
Yeah, good. So that's my hope, you know, that they can start and move ahead with that.
Yeah.
So wonderful. Awesome, Amanda.
No, my pleasure. And if you want to reach out to Leigh, her details will be in the description box with a link to her website where you can
also on Facebook, less so on Instagram, though I am on there and your message will come through. But yeah, you'll find me on there. It's where us oldies hang out. My young clients who are all on Instagram, I'm like, that's where you young guys hang out. Let's stick. And so that's the other thing I'll sometimes do is tune into what social media platform and what posting, because that's like really important. It's where is the audience that's right, divinely right for you.
Especially now with TikTok in the mix as well. Like,
I can't. I'm too old for TikTok.
I've given it a go, but I'm not sure.
Not like that. And I'm my genius is written, so platforms that support written are better. Well, other people do really well in video, you know, so it just depends on the person. Awesome, Amanda. We'll let it there because as you can find out, I can talk forever about this stuff.
No, pleasure. It's been so amazing listening to you, Leigh.
Awesome. Thanks, Amanda.
Thank you.